Welcome back to The Line. A group of lawmakers from New Mexico, the House, met this week to discuss the possible impeachment of Secretary of State Diana Duran. Now, Ms. Duran is facing 64 counts, including money laundering and embezzlement related to alleged misuse of campaign funds. And Vicki, of course, you work on transparency and ethics issues here for your organization. Let's see, real fundamental question. Would a different set of laws or an ethics commission or something, whatever it would be in your perfect world for common cause, what would it be to help solve these kind of problems with Ms. Duran, that we're seeing with Ms. Duran and others, as a matter of fact? What would be the answer here?
Good independent ethics commission. A good independent ethics commission. And I always say good because there have been some bad proposals over the years. Common Cause actually joined with the Chamber and FOG and the League and some other folks to oppose a bill a few years ago. And so we have to make sure it's fair. It protects the legislators from false claims that could ruin their reputation.
Good point.
And it also protects the whistleblower from any sort of backlash that they might get. And you know, an ethics commission could oversee these things. They could also do the training that we're now seeing with all these reports popping up of, you know, oh, here's another problem with the campaign finance report. Here's another one.
That's right.
An ethics commission could do training. It could be a resource so people have a base. You know, we have a citizens legislature. And so these are people who have a job in addition to being a legislator. So that automatically is creating conflicts right there.
Right.
You've automatically got a conflict.
You know, there have been efforts for an ethics commission many times in our legislature in the past. How come this has never got anywhere?
You know, I think it's because people want it to be done the right way. People, you know, legislators are scared of their opposition coming up with false claims against them, and that's valid sometimes. And so I think, you know, and a lot of our ethics commissions, like many of the bills Common Cause supports, are many, many pages. So we are currently shopping around a 3-pager to legislators and asking for their opinions, to advocates, to attorneys, and saying, look, if we can boil it down to a few pages, you can give good feedback. There are other models out there. We're one of 8 states that do not have an ethics commission.
Wow.
But in all honesty, of the 42 states that do have them, probably half of them aren't good. So we need to do it the right way, and this is the time to do it. Our state has been asking for this for so many years. 86% of the state, Republicans, Democrats, and independents say we want this.
Interesting. Phil Marquez, this begs a question. Maybe the people should have a chance to vote on this with a little constitutional amendment situation. Is that something that you would find palatable to make this work? Because otherwise, is my real question inside that, otherwise, isn't it just more of the same? If we, just like Vicki's saying, if we have a commission, we have all these new laws, but they're junk, what's the point? Doesn't it have more teeth if the people have said 85% of us want this?
It can't come out of the legislature. I think it has to be the vote of the people in the state. Can come out and say, we need to have something that's an oversight that could take a look at how we operate our state.
Right.
Because every time we turn around, there's some kind of scandal up there.
Right.
Whether it's a Republican in power, whether it's Democrats in power, there's always some kind of scandal. And then it gets pushed down to the attorney and the attorney general, and then moves down the line to the point where you're finally confused. As a citizen, you're confused as to what it is.
That's right.
You don't even know what the problem is.
That's right.
Then everybody spins it. So now the Republicans are after the Democrats. Democrats are after Republicans. So now you're confused. And after a while, nothing happens. So yeah, I think it would be a good idea to take it to the state and let the voters decide.
Interesting. Martha, going back to our Secretary of State currently, we've got a situation where it seems like there's some roiling water between her and the Attorney General's office happening right now with the situation. We've had something in the news on Thursday morning where she's looking for the AG to not be involved with this, and the AG's kicking back a bunch of things back to her office that he was going to be looking into. Something's weird's going on here between these two.
Well, yeah, and I think if we had an ethics commission, we wouldn't have gotten to this point. Because they're each accusing the other of being unethical, vindictive, and so forth. But naturally, Ms. Duran is upset with the Attorney General. He has brought 64 counts against her. So she's saying, well, I'm just going to ask that he be removed.
That's right.
I think clearly the Secretary of State does not realize the gravity of her situation. And I think the Attorney General actually probably did the ethical thing when he said, I'm not going to take any more cases from her right now. Here's why. She practically threatened the entire legislature a couple of days ago when she said, well, I may just investigate everybody's campaign finance reports. In other words, if you vote to impeach me, you may be out of here too.
That's right.
And so I think the Attorney General was making an effort to say, can we nip this in the bud? Can we stop this back and forth and get back to the people's business? She obviously did not like it, but again, she doesn't understand the gravity of her situation.
Interesting. Rob Nicoleski, please pick up on that. It's interesting, it would seem a fairly simple thing to do. The AG has a role, she steps back, lets the AG do his thing. But she's also naming names of other legislators out there who have had problems. She brought up Mo Maestas. It's old news, certainly, but she brought it up.
Roger Madalena.
That's right.
Andy Nunez. Two things. First of all, this past week, that House committee went ahead and hired an attorney, Robert Gornz, former U.S. attorney. From a taxpayer standpoint, now the rubber is going to hit the road when it comes to Ms. Duran. I think she should resign because once we're expending taxpayer dollars, right now it's still in the political football stage, but once we start expending taxpayer dollars, I think the smart thing for her to do is to step down when you're facing these kind of charges, because now taxpayer money is going to be expended. Now a committee is going to be formed. That's going to spend taxpayer dollars. The second thing, and this is interesting on the political standpoint, the Attorney General by state law represents the Secretary of State when it comes to disputes. So Hector Balderas, the Attorney General, has been collecting evidence against Diana Duran when in fact she is also his client.
That's right.
So I think that to me that underscores the fact that she should resign. We should separate this. Maybe this will be a way for her to defend herself in court and say this evidence that's been accumulated against me by the Attorney General's office should be thrown out. But that's a legal question. That is a question you can put at trial. And I think that's all the more reason for her to step down. Because you just can't do your job right now.
Well, that's a good question
when
there.
You've got Mo Maestas, Roger Madalena, Andy Nunez, they can come back and say, and I think Madalena did, saying, how can you look at me when you're facing 64 counts?
And she did not follow the legal procedure in bringing those charges against Maestas either. She was supposed to call him, give him 10 days to respond and so forth. She went directly to the media, which is illegal.
From a political standpoint, when you've got Rod Adair, who used to work, Rock River Republican, former state senator, who used to work for Diana Duran. I don't know under what circumstances he left the office.
For both their campaigns.
But he's calling for her to step down as well. I think that she's going to be an island unto herself.
Well, I'm sorry, but Rob, I think that's exactly right when you talk about the money. We have already appropriated $250,000. That's just the first appropriation for this. And so that's been another pushback on an ethics commission all these years is it's going to actually cost something.
That's right.
Think about if we would have had an ethics commission that we would have funded and we're going to, who knows what we're going to spend on one case.
That's right.
And I think that is, and that's our biggest concern is, what Martha just mentioned is that there is a 10-day, we asked for voluntary compliance with our Campaign Reporting Act, and that letter should have gone to Mo Maestas because I talked to Mo and I appreciate what he did. There were 2 missing deposits. He found more. He contacted me. He contacted Ken Ortiz. He sat down. We're not trying to do a gotcha. What Mo did is exactly what we want to happen for everybody. They don't need to be penalized if they miss a deposit and it's honest.
That's right.
We're not trying to do that. And so I think that the money issue and now with not following state law and contacting the Attorney General and the media before you contact the legislator is a huge problem.
Good point there. Up next, why Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Mexico is pulling out of the state exchange and what customers can expect next.